Hello, today I want to take a look at the results of a Lightfast test, which I set up just over 13 months ago now. And this was of the fluorescent mediums which I had at the time, which include paints, markers and pencils. So I've had this sheet of half of the samples blue tacked up in my dining room window, and it's a south-facing window, and I'm in the UK where we don't get a huge amount of strong sunlight. I've heard some people say that a window test isn't a very good test because it's exposing the paints to too direct sunlight. But to be honest, I'd rather know the worst case scenario. And also I think, especially in small UK homes, I think we tend to use the wall space available to us, and sometimes that is next to a window. I've definitely got art up in places where light hits through the windows onto it, so that's my reasoning for doing it this way anyway. The other halves I've kept tucked away, completely out of light for the last 13 months. So the way I set up the test was to have a thick layer of the medium in the top portion of the box and then a more washed out layer underneath. So I'm just going to run through them now. These are the oranges, or reds and oranges. I had the Paul Rubens Opera set, so quite a few of the watercolours are from that set. So you can see Paul Rubens Opera Light Red, Paul Rubens Opera Orange Red. Both of the washes have completely disappeared, and to a large extent the mass tone has. Then this line here was the Posca Fluorescent Red, the Posca pen 5M, Holbein Artist's coloured pencil this row, Jackson's Handmade Soft Pastels. They do a set of 3 fluorescents. That's nearly all disappeared. The Posca pen has stuck around again, though faded a lot. That's the orange. Prismacolor Premiere Neon Orange. It's probably faded about the same amount as the Holbein. This is Jackson's Fluorescent Orange, the soft pastel. That's gone again. This box here, Paul Rubens Opera Orange, Holbein Acrylic Gouache, the luminous orange, the washed out one's totally gone. The Amsterdam Acrylic Reflex Orange, that's almost totally gone in both. And then the bottom one is the Molotov One for All Acrylic in Neon Orange. The next little strip was the yellows. So Paul Rubens Opera Golden, Paul Rubens Opera Yellow, and the Posca Fluorescent Yellow, just in that line there. And the bottom line is a Prismacolor Premiere Neon Yellow pencil, which is totally gone. Then next up the purples, going through into the pinks. This top section, this is Holbein Gouache this time, and that was their violet, which they do class as fugitive. Paul Rubens Opera Violet, Holbein Gouache in magenta. Now this is the magenta which came in the 18 set of Holbein Gouache, but they do a separate permanent magenta, which I ended up buying as well when I saw that this was classed as fugitive. I still think it's a shame that in a beginner's set you've got 2 fugitive paints. And Paul Rubens Opera Peach, so that's the peach there. This is Winsor & Newton's Designer's Gouache in Bengal Rose, and then Holbein Bright Rose, and that's not totally gone away, which is nice to see, but it has lost a lot of its vibrancy. Paul Rubens Opera Rose, this one. And then the last 2, Paul Rubens Opera Pink, was almost totally gone. And then we've got Rosa Gallery Opera Rose, and this was quite a pleasant surprise. It's still definitely there, even in the washed out strip, but it's just kept the cooler parts of it. And then we've got the rest of the pinks. So here I've got Posca Pink and then Posca Fluorescent Pink, and they've both definitely faded, but neither have completely disappeared. Got the Prismacolor Premier Pink pencil. Then the Franck Bourgeois Flashe Paint, Fluorescent Pink. And then the next one is one that's done well, and that's Winsor & Newton Opera Rose. And then I've got De La Rowney System 3 Acrylic in Fluorescent Pink, which is almost totally gone. Amsterdam Acrylic in Reflex Rose, again almost identical to the De La Rowney. Then I've got De La Rowney FW Acrylic Ink. And the last two, I've got Holbein Acrylic Gouache Opera. And then the last one, which had completely disappeared, Jackson's Handmade Soft Pastel in Fluorescent Pink. So there's no massive surprise here. None of these paints claim to be Lightfast. It's well known that fluorescent and opera colours have a fluorescent dye element to them, which fades. I was just curious to see which faded more than others. I think the two really pleasant surprises were the Rosa Gallery and the Winsor & Newton Opera Rose. And I think they operated fairly similarly. So I think if you want to do a painting with fluorescent pink in it, either the Rosa Gallery or Winsor & Newton Opera Rose watercolours would be your best bet, because although some of the vibrancy might fade away a bit, at least it's not going to disappear completely, so the composition of the painting isn't going to change. You're still going to have some colour there that's vaguely along the right lines. And the Holbein Bright Rose, it does fade more, but it doesn't fade away to nothing. Again, the Posca pens will still leave something there. They didn't fade away to nothing. So yeah, it was interesting for me to see this anyway. What I want to do now is swatch out some more mediums for another Lightfast test. This time I've got out lots of my mixed media non-artists quality supplies. I haven't used these in works that I'd sell, other than occasionally on greetings cards. But just out of curiosity, I wondered how Lightfast they actually are. The Woody Stabilo actually do have Lightfast stars on them, but I'll give them a swatch out anyway. I've got some King Art gel sticks, some Shuttle Art Tempera paint sticks. I've got these Ranger Tim Holtz Distress crayons, and then some Faber-Castell Gelatos. I've also got these Artix acrylic markers. These are the really nice brush tip ones. And then finally, I've got these higher oil pastels. They do have Lightfast ratings on them, but I would like to just check those out. For the King Art gel sticks, I don't have a full set. I've got a range of my favourite ones from the 48 set, and I've passed on the rest, in case you're wondering which set this was. So here are all my new colour swatches ready to be Lightfast tested. I'll just stick them up in my dining room window again. I've done all the swatches in the way that I would usually use that medium. So for example, the Stabilo Woodies I've used with water. And although the Distress Crayons and the Faber-Castell Gelatos are water soluble, I've not added water to those because that's not usually how I use them. I also blended out all the mediums which I would usually blend, like the oil pastels and tempera paint sticks, Distress Crayons and Gelatos. And I've made a bit of a mess with this one, I've smudged it a bit. But I've also added on some watercolours, which I was interested in testing. So the Lutia watercolours, and then I've got a new Opera Rose since I did the last Fluorescent Lightfast test. And I've just added on a brighter Roman Schmall, which is Quinacridone Warm Scarlet. So I'll keep an eye on these, and if there's been any change over a particular time period, I'll show them again. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye!